What's up? This is David from Art of Decay. You're watching OCML's Artist Spotlight.
Expect the worst from everyone I meet. And cut the clothes, cause I can't fucking sleep.
Like, I've wanted to be in music my whole life just because of there was just a natural drawing towards it where I would just sit and stare at drummers whenever I'd look at any kind of music or band. My dad did a lot of music when I was growing up. He did stage, he did acting, he did music. He was a worship leader at a church for a long time growing up, so I was always a part of music and around music. So growing up and watching that and being a part of it, I always just felt it. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a motocross racer. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be like an action star like Jean-Claude Van Damme and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Steven Seagal. All those old dudes were like my heroes back then. But like realistically, what was I really gonna do? Not big enough to be a football player. Motocross, maybe, but music was what it was. So with music, just it stuck with me. And after my dad would be done with, church would be over. My dad would, we'd talk to the, pastors and everything. But like, I would go over there and sneak over and see if I could play drums. A lot of times, like, the pastor would ever look over me like, because he's trying to talk to his church. But a lot of times, I'd be able to actually get some minutes in and start playing little drums here and there. Totally terrible, of course, but I loved it. I tried playing a little bit of guitar, but since I didn't know what I was doing, I picked it up and was like, nah, the drums are easier. I can just pick them up and kind of beat on some stuff, and it's easier. So I just kind of naturally was drawn towards more percussive instruments like that. And then I was just begging my parents to like get a drum set. And if anyone knows anything about drums or drumming at all, it's like the worst instrument you can get because it's expensive. Every piece is an instrument in itself and is cost itself. Like this cost, that cost separate. It's not just like a guitar and a cab and you're ready to go. It's a pain in the ass to haul around town into gigs. You have the most equipment, you have the most tuning. It's really annoying to be a drummer. But that's what I picked and I love it, so can't really complain, I guess, too much. No, I can still complain. I like to bitch. So from there on, I just started playing drums and stuck with it. He's now my brother-in-law. My sister was dating someone when she was growing up. His name's Nate. He's my brother-in-law now. They got married. But he was he was a drummer. He was the only drummer I really knew growing up for a little bit. And he'd been playing forever. He had a private lessons teacher that he had, and he knew all the different things. He would help me like kind of formulate what I was trying to do, or what was this, like what's this called when I do that, and how do they play this. And he kind of started me on my way, so I looked up to him for a long time. I still do, because he plays piano, he plays guitar, he plays like everything. So looked up to him a bit, growing up, kind of formulating how to be my own drummer. I also loved NoFX. I also loved Dave Matthews Band. I was kind of actually like never really stuck in a rut of only metal or only hardcore or only punk or only ska or whatever that most drummers and musicians in general that are into metal get stuck in, where it's like, if it's not heavy and fast, I don't like it kind of thing. I was always kind of broad until I hit junior high and high school, and then I got like, oh, I don't know, it's not punk enough, it's not hardcore enough. But yeah, Dave Matthews, NoFX, my brother-in-law Nate, and then from there just branched out, and I got a ridiculous amount of drummers and inspirations that I like now. But I kind of started there, and then I branched out from there. Right off the bat, Thrice, since the first time I heard them, I think the first song I heard was To Awaken Avenge the Dead. I think that was the first song I heard. So I kind of came on a little later than everyone my age. Everyone else had already been listening to them from Identity Crisis. But I came on in The Illusion of Safety, and that was the first song I heard. And I was just like, whoa, like, periodically in my life there have been times where this is the first time I heard this style or what they're doing. It was just like, they sounded so much different than everything else I was listening to at the time. So right off the bat, Thrice, like, I've been following them in their progression in music from their early days as like a punk band, then a punk hardcore, post-hardcore, into what they are now, which is just insane how they've changed, but they've kept a fan base and still kept on growing. In music, that's really hard to do when you change your style. They've done it perfectly. Right off the bat, them. I've always been a big Anthony Green fan, so anything he does. So I'm a big Circa Survive fan as well. And then probably Metallica, which was my last third favorite. So, but there's so many. It's really kind of, I feel like I'm cheating on some of my girlfriends by not naming the other bands, but that'd probably be the top three just off the top of my head. Dance Gavin Dance, his new one, Mothership. Good God, that album is incredible. There's so much music, so much going on, and so much. The production on it's like over the top, like really really good production. Both the vocalists are just incredible. I don't know how I don't know how I don't know his name because I just got into this band. I never liked them before. Like when they had Johnny Craig, I like him, his voice and everything. But the band, I don't know if they changed members, but what band I never really paid attention to. Someone recommended this album and I was like, I'll give it a shot. I came on my Pandora and I was just like hooked from then on. So I don't know their names. I feel bad about that right now. But the clean vocalist and the guitarist, the drummer, those three guys in that band are just like, they've blown me away when I was in that album. There's so much music in it that I have not gotten sick of it yet, which is incredible because I get sick of albums really quickly generally. That one's on heavy rotation. The new Metallica album is on heavy rotation with me. I'm finally starting to appreciate the new Avenged album, although I still don't think I like it that much. But I keep on listening to it because something's drawing me back because there's a lot of, the production in it is, the drums are fantastic. Like, let's just say that. Their new drummer is Wackerman, he's amazing drummer. Yeah, I think that's probably like the top three on rotation right now for me. Yeah, it's a lot different, but since it's not like an album that makes you, okay, I know where he's gonna go next with vocals or the music, it keeps you guessing. That's why I keep on coming back to it because you can't. It's not predictable.
Yeah.
So you don't immediately like it. Like, oh, I like this. It's poppy. Like the progression of it. It's different. So a lot of times those are the best albums for me because they don't get old very fast.
Yeah.
They keep your attention for a long time, and then all of a sudden they become like some of your favorites. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking it might be that with that. Honestly, I cannot remember, but I can remember maybe some of the first concerts I can remember. Like I said, I grew up raised in church and everything, so I went to a lot of youth group stuff. I went to a lot of things in my church and everything. So like, no one probably knows who this is unless you grew up in church. But I went and saw, my aunt took me to go see Carmen. He's like an Italian solo Christian artist that does like rap and hip hop for the kids. It was actually really entertaining when I was a kid. He had the dance moves and everything. And then another band, Jars of Clay. You remember that song Flood? Yeah, Jars of Clay I saw. That was like the first bands that I can really remember. So I had a much different upbringing, much different like musical journey than I feel like a lot of musicians that I talk to. Like, of course, like, oh, my first one was, you know, something really cool, and like, oh, you saw them when you were a kid. It was like, no, I was seeing Carmen and alternative rock stuff. So the most memorable moment with Art of Decay was, I think probably the first time we played House of Blues. We had it was a packed house. We had a really good, feeling going into the show and everything, but up until then, we didn't know what to expect with that show. So at the time, it was the biggest thing that we had done, the biggest venue, the largest thing. We didn't know where the curtain's going to open and it was going to be empty or what, but the curtains opened and it was, I swear to God, like, we have video of the whole show and everything, and we have the whole thing filmed. It was a sea of Art of Decay shirts, Our shirts are really recognizable. They have the big print of our AOD and then a rose, or they have our logo, and you can just spot them out of a crowd. They opened up and it was just a sea of them, and it was deafening when the curtains opened up and we rang out that first open chord. You could hear just like everyone just cheering for us. I was like, whoa, this is so cool. Excuse me. After the show was over, it closed again, and we weren't the headliner, so we couldn't do do an encore or anything. But there was another deafening chant of one more song for a solid at least 5 minutes, and they wouldn't let us do it. But it was cool. That was a really good feeling to know that our music's meaning something, and our live show is working, and the connection's there, and everything just seemed to be perfect. Our lead singer Auria and I, we went out of the curtain, shook a bunch of hands over the barricade. It felt really cool. That was probably the most memorable moment so far, was when I just felt that kind of connection and feeling like the music that I had written along with these people meant that much to people that they were wanting another song, and that was a really cool feeling. The new one's supposed to be really nice, dude. Like, it's the old one's closed. The one in Sunset's been closed, which sucks. That one was a really cool location. But the new one's opening up soon, and Thrice is playing. Yeah, the opening lineup has been announced, and it's actually a pretty sick lineup for the first couple shows. Huh?
You're gonna go?
Every time they play, dude. I go to the LA date, I go to the Orange County date, I go see them as many times as I can while they're in town. Yeah, the new one's bigger. From what I've been told, there's 3 concert halls.
Yeah.
Kind of like Observatory has Constellation, they have the main room, but they have another one that I'm not sure about. So there's like 3 little halls, probably for like acoustic singer-songwriters. There's the main hall.
Probably for like local bands, like smaller.
Yeah. And then they finally have a foundation room, because they didn't have that in Anaheim. They had the top floor, but really anyone can get up there.
Mhm.
This one's actually going to have a proper foundation room like the rest of the House of Blues.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. Stoked on it. I think I admire and respect all the guys from the Mirage Theory. They have like John and Davier. They both work at the studio there at Flying Pig Productions out in Brea. They invited us out. We were interviewed on their podcast. They really helped us out and gave us a lot of advice along the way. They're from Puerto Rico, and they moved out here, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. They've just been killing it. Like, they were doing really well out there, and they kind of had a glass ceiling where you really couldn't advance anymore. So they moved out here, and ever since, they've got a new management deal now that's doing really well for them. They've played huge shows. They're getting bigger and bigger, and I really see them going in the right direction. Their shows are getting bigger, their reach is getting more broad. They're tip-top musicians, like really good musicians, and gearheads. I'll ask Davier, the drummer, anything, and he's a gearhead. And he didn't used to be, but he said he did it so he could talk to sound guys properly. And I can ask him anything about drums or triggering or anything that I'm curious about, and he'll help out. They both work at the studio. They're very knowledgeable. Like, they're a DIY band, but they're doing it the right way, And then the singer Eddie. He has his own music blog that he does, a life blog. He's very active with photography. They all have something they have separate, which I think in any band is really important. You can't just do music anymore, because it's just, you have to do something on the side. So they all have their hands in like different things, keep them interested. Then as a band together, when you see them live, one of the most rehearsed bands, one of the best songwriting bands, I think. They're a really good band. Check them out. And also, the Unsung are really good too. Good friends of ours. We just played with actually both of those bands on the 22nd of December for like a holiday show with Silas's comeback show. And the Unsung, same kind of thing. Great musicians, great people. They're on the up and up. They played a lot of big shows. Both those guys. Check them out. Don't give up with anything music-wise. There's always a lot of bumps in the road of any career. Music is no different, and it's probably, I hate to say it, it's probably actually harder than any other career, because there's a lot of letdown. There's a lot of, we'll just put it this way, when you're at a 9 to 5, or you're at a desk job, or you go to USC or whatever fancy college you want to go to, and you try to get a job, you interview, you might not get the job, yeah, big deal, but you eventually get the job, and then you're in the corporate America thing. In music, you put your heart and soul into your music, and you're biased. You think your song you just wrote or your live set you just wrote is the best thing that anyone's ever heard. To put that out there and let it go into the wild and see the reaction, and then to hear people criticize you, to people say that you suck, say that, whatever it is, and then things outside of your control where the sound wasn't good, or your monitor wasn't working, or your gear was messing up during your show. All that hits you a lot harder because it's your creation. It's almost like your child you're putting out there. So you take offense to it. It can really depress you. And at the same time, it's the most rewarding at the same time. So it's a yin and a yang kind of thing. You have highs and lows more than any other job that I've personally held. So speaking from experience, it's a really hard job, but it is the most rewarding. You got to have that hardcore mindset no matter your genre of perseverance, hope, don't give up. That's kind of the thing that all of my lyrics that I write encompass, is a perseverance and hope, even though life and everything can get really dark. You got to stick with it. You got to practice, biggest thing. Got to practice, and I'm guilty of this a lot too, because I'm really busy with my life outside of music, but got to practice, got to be the best you can be. and take a business class. Brush up on business, take it at the college, do it privately, research online. I mean, you got Google, you can find anything you want. You can get screwed so easily. You need to know how to manage your money, manage your band. You need to be able to, if you can't do it, hire a manager, I don't know, but you can't have people taking advantage of you, because you will get taken advantage of very quickly. And this wasn't on the questions, but a shout out on top of that, go talk to the guys in OCML if you're trying to play a show or anything, because they won't take advantage of you. I believe the split is still 50-50 for
I think so.
tickets
No, you keep everything.
for shows now.
Yeah.
Even better, now you keep all of your profits for your ticket sales. So I mean, it doesn't get any better than that anywhere you go. So check those guys out. Keep good people close and just know who's out to get you. Hey, this is David with Art of Decay, and you've been watching OCML's Artist Spotlight. From me and the rest of Art of Decay, thank you very much for supporting us throughout the years. We'll see you soon.